It had been a good neighborhood party, so far. I was sitting at a heavy patio table talking with Adam, our host this Friday evening. Brent was quietly listening and staying completely out of our argument. We were currently discussing the finer points of bass fishing. My preference for a plastic worm or a lazy ike was being strongly disputed by Adam. He much preferred a shyster for deep water or a jitterbug for top water. Look, Jim, the bug floats and that means it doesn't get caught up in the weeds and moss just under the surface. The shyster gets down there quick in deeper water and the flash from the whirly gig attracts papa bass like you wouldn't believe. Well, you might be right, Adam. Tell you what, I'll give him a try my next time out. If it works like you say, I'll have you and Abby over for a fish fry. How's that? He nodded in agreement and went into the house to use the bathroom. The argument, though friendly, was pointless. It was easier for me to just agree with him than try to convince him that I had learned to fish from my grandfather. It was good enough for Granddad, and that was good enough for me. I started looking around for Janice, my wife of 5 years. There was a small group further out on the patio and it looked like she was dancing with Carl. Adam's wife, Abby, was there, but I didn't see Beth, Brent's wife. There were 3 or 4 others missing, but they were probably downstairs in the game room. The music switched to a slow number and Carl took Janice in his arms to dance up close and personal, but she excused herself and came over to sit with me. All wore out from dancing? No, I just didn't think you would like for me to dance as close to him as he likes. That bad, huh? Worse. He keeps his lower half up tight against my tummy and likes to keep both hands on my behind. I love dancing that way with you, but I just don't feel comfortable dancing that way with him. Come on, dance with me. I feel like being stimulated tonight. She grabbed my hand and led me to the dance area. We managed to undulate through 4 slow songs and then returned to the table. I guess I did a good job of stimulating her because her deep brown eyes had that "take me home and make love to me" look. Adam wasn't back yet, so we made our excuses to Abby and left. Home was just a short walk away, and when I unlocked the door, she started taking her clothes off. She left a trail of discarded items all of the way to the foot of the bed. We did just what her eyes suggested. We made love for 3 hours. Slow, sensuous love. Each of us was doing everything possible to please the other. I woke up to a beautiful sight the next morning. Her head was on my shoulder and my chest was completely covered with shiny raven black hair. The room was still permeated with the aroma of last night's activities. She was lying there, all funky looking. To me she was absolutely, unequivocally beautiful. My thoughts were rudely interrupted by the cutting sound of the phone. The damn thing sounded like a cricket on steroids. I managed to get it off its cradle on the 3rd chirp and mumbled, "Hello?" I couldn't hear a thing. No one answered me back. Thinking it must have been a wrong number, I started to hang it up when I noticed I was holding it backwards. I had been speaking into the end that was supposed to be at my ear. I reversed the damn thing and tried again. "Hello? Hey, Jim, this is Adam. How's it going this morning?" "Not too bad, I guess. I'll know more when I'm fully awake." "What ya need, Adam?" "I just called the marina and the manager said the base are so hungry that they're jumping into the boat to get at the lures. How about I pick you up in a little bit and we give it a try? You can give me lessons on how to fish with a lazy ike, and then I'm gonna stomp all over you with my shysters." "Okay." I laughed. "Better make it at least an hour though. It'll take me that long to make coffee and get my stuff ready." "Great. See you in an hour." The distinct click in my left ear told me the conversation was over. I needed to get up and get busy if I was going to be ready when he got here. The soft tongue caressing my right ear was sending an entirely different message. Janice was awake and she obviously had her own ideas about how this Saturday morning should be spent. I almost reached for the phone to cancel the fishing trip but was stopped by the invasion of a tongue in my mouth. I thought I was completely worn out from our antics last night, but her hand sliding down my body and grasping the excitement between my legs gave the lie to that thought. She would occasionally wake up like this and it was something I looked forward to. I knew I was in for a ride, and a wild ride it would be. All I had to do was lay there and enjoy. I loved it when we made love like this, although lust might be a better term to use. I didn't think she would maintain this slow pace for long, and I was right. Her movements slightly increased in speed and the dreamlike expression changed to one of deep concentration. Her eyes snapped open, staring up at the ceiling. I was barely able to match her movements. I wasn't quite ready yet, and that was a good thing because I knew the ride had only began. We went limp at the same time, neither of us able to move. Both of us were drenched with sweat and gasping for air. A glance at the clock revealed that my hour of preparation had diminished to 20 minutes. I jumped from the bed and dashed to the shower. Strike that. I slid out from under Janice, struggled to an almost upright position and staggered to the shower, banging into the doorframe only once. The shower was short and it only took a couple of minutes to climb into my fishing grubs. Somehow, Janice had made it to the kitchen and had a cup of instant coffee ready for me. I found my fish pole and tackle box in the garage and was walking toward the end of the drive when Adam and Brent stopped in front of the house. Janice came running down the drive and handed me a small cooler with a 6-pack of Coke and a blue ice can cooler inside. She added a quick kiss to my cheek and we were off to the lake. I generally like to give praise when praise is due. Adam had a first-class bass boat. There was more than ample room for the three of us. He was up at the nose where he could run the small trolling motor. Brent was on a post seat by the console and I was on the rear deck. We had been fishing for over 3 hours and so far, Adam had 2 keepers, Brent was still trying to figure it out, and I had 5 keepers. It was obvious to me that Brent wasn't a fisherman. He was a likable guy and he was a lot of fun to be around, he just didn't have a clue about how to catch a fish. We had talked about almost everything 3 guys could think of, except women. That subject had come up about 10 minutes ago. Adam made a long cast and, intently watching where his lure had splashed down, asked, "So, Jim, ever thought of adding a little variety to your love life?" That was a loaded question if I ever heard one. Should I be honest or should I lie to him? Not wanting to lie, and then have to make up another lie to cover up for the first one, I decided to tell the truth. "Yes, I have." "Really? How does your wife feel about that?" "I don't know. We've never discussed it." Adam was still looking at the spot where his lure had splashed, but he wasn't turning the crank on his reel. Brent was carefully looking at the knot he was trying to tie, but his hands weren't moving. His head was tilted slightly as if listening intently. Adam's next question just about knocked me off my seat. "Why don't you talk to her about it? Find out if she would go along with it." Whoa, stop. This conversation was going in a direction I didn't like. It was getting way too personal. I wasn't sure exactly what was up. We were kind of new to this neighborhood and I did want to get along with these guys. It was time for me to ask a question. "Tell me, Adam, just exactly what is it you're leading up to?" "Well, a few of us get together a couple of Saturdays a month and have what you might call an X-rated party. We swim, play strip poker, Brent and I were thinking that you and Janice might like to join our little group." Well, there it was. I now realized I had been woken up early and dragged out here to the lake for the sole purpose of having this little conversation. It sure wasn't because the fish were biting. 7 fish in 3 hours? Right. The only fishing going on here was for something that I didn't think I wanted any part of. It was time to be firm, but tactful. "Thanks for the offer, guys, but Janice and I aren't interested." "But you just said that you've thought about it." "I know, Adam, but let me explain. There have been times when I have seen a beautiful woman walk by and wondered what she would be like, but that's human nature. I would never act on that thought. You're sitting in this boat with a husband that's 100% faithful to his wife." Adam just couldn't let it go at that. He had to push one more time. "But, Jim, if both partners agree to that kind of an arrangement, then being faithful, or unfaithful, has nothing to do with it. Look, guys, I'm not sure I could stand the thought of Janice sleeping with some other man. As for me sleeping with some other woman, that would break her heart. I love her too much to do that to her." The discussion of that subject was over. Adam started reeling in his lure and Brent finished tying his knot. Brent said something about how hot it was getting and that pretty well ended our fishing trip. They dropped me off at my drive about 2 in the afternoon. Janice's car was in the garage but she wasn't home. A note on the fridge informed me that she was shopping with a couple of the girls. Janice didn't get home until after 6. She gave me a peck on the cheek and went straight to the kitchen, telling me that supper would be ready in about an hour. She evidently found the pan of fish I had brought home and cleaned, so I wasn't surprised that the meal was fish and fried potatoes. I was surprised at how quiet and thoughtful looking she was. Normally, I would be forced to relive her shopping trip in all its glorious details. Then I remembered she hadn't brought home a single package. This was highly unusual, to say the least. She was either sick or had something on her mind that she didn't want to talk about. I retreated to my home office/den after supper. I was a structural design engineer, a construction coordinator, and very good at my job. The room had been designed as a large family room, but since we didn't have a family, I had converted it to a workroom. I had a normal-sized writing desk and the latest model computer sitting beside it against one wall, and a very large work table against the other wall. The computer on the work table was custom designed for my work. Janice and I shared the computer by the writing desk. She didn't pay any attention to the one on the work table because the programs on it weren't any good for email or surfing the internet. I finally closed down a CAD program and went to the bedroom. Janice was already there. She was laying on her back, hands behind her head, staring at the ceiling. I knew she had something on her mind, but I wasn't sure what. As an icebreaker, I asked what I thought was a neutral question. "Who were you shopping with today?" "Abby and Beth called not too long after you left and I spent the day with them." That didn't sound good. Could they have had the same conversation with Janice that I had with their husbands today? I noticed you didn't bring any packages home with you. You must not have done much shopping. We didn't. We spent most of the day just talking. Honey, I kinda agreed to something without checking with you first. No, she wouldn't do that, would she? She surely didn't agree to join the parties. Damn, I didn't like the sound of that at all. How could she possibly agree to something like that? Sis called right after you left. Her husband kicked her out and she doesn't have any place to stay. I told her she could stay with us until she finds a place of her own. We are to pick her up at the bus depot tomorrow morning. I'm sorry, honey, she's my sister. I just couldn't turn her down. Well, that was a relief. Maybe I should find out what she's talking about and not be jumping to any conclusions. Her sister, Sue, would be an inconvenience, but I could live with it. So, how long is she going to stay this time? I thought that was a fair question. She was with us for over 3 months when her first husband kicked her out. I never did hear why they got a divorce. Now that husband number 2 had given her the boot, I was beginning to think maybe some people just weren't meant to be married. I don't know how long she'll be here. She was crying and I couldn't get any details from her. You're not mad, are you? No, of course not. I'm just thinking she'll kind of put a crimp in our nightly antics is all. I wouldn't want to embarrass her. You mean you don't want to be embarrassed? Don't worry, I'll put her in the far bedroom upstairs. She won't overhear too much up there. It sounded like she had given things a little thought, but what I was really thinking about was our play during breakfast. I was also thinking about the fun we often had when I came home for the noon meal. We took extra long lunch breaks every Tuesday and Thursday. This would last for about 5 minutes. We would both return to work after that. With Sue here, our life would definitely suffer. Hopefully she wouldn't be here for 3 months this time. She was evidently thinking along the same lines as me because she smiled and said, "Don't worry, honey, I'll rent us a room at that fancy hotel next to the convention center. I'm sure I can negotiate a monthly rate with them." Sounds like a plan to me. Now then, tell me about your day with Abby and Beth. Well, they did have a lot to talk about. They told me Adam and Brent were going to talk to you about the same thing. It seems they belong to a club and they were wondering if we would be interested in joining them. What did the boys have to say? They told me that everyone swam nude, played games, and then the girls would have a drawing of some kind to see who their sleeping partner would be for the night. I basically told them I couldn't stand the thought of you sleeping with someone else and I wouldn't do it because I didn't want to break your heart. Oh, honey, that's so sweet. Thank you. Is that all they told you? The girls told me a lot more than that. That's all that was said. They changed the subject when I told them how I felt. Tell me everything the girls told you. Oh, they went into a lot of detail. Sometimes they have a poker night. Everyone starts with the same number of clothes on. When you've run out of clothes, then you have to start doing forfeits. On swim night you draw for your partner and then each couple jumps in and the couple that undresses each other in the fastest time wins some kind of a special treat from the losers. Abby said that the last time Adam was a winner, he had several of the women at the same time. It sounds like they have a lot of fun at it. Can you believe that? Yeah, I can believe that. It's just a lifestyle I've never considered. Tell me, Janice, have I misread you? Is this something you want to do? You seem to be kinda enthused about it. I didn't get an immediate response. She started staring at the ceiling again as if in deep thought. I had lain down beside her and was also staring at the ceiling. I rolled to my right and raised up on my elbow looking at her inquisitively. She shifted her gaze to me, started to speak, hesitated for a few more seconds and then asked, "How would you feel about sharing me with other